Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's scene. My name is Beatrice Benn. I'm a Film Academy Young Programmer. The focus of today's scene is externalizing the internal through focusing on the work of emerging filmmakers. Today, I'll be interviewing the award-winning filmmaker Ava Bounds to discuss her 2023 film, Dying to Meet You. The film depicts the origins of Alcoholics Anonymous, but it certainly isn't your typical biopic, as we will later explore. Ava Bounds is a very inspiring young filmmaker. She's only 18 years old, but already crafting very sophisticated narratives that are as high quality as many established feature films. In 2021, she became the first person to ever receive the IMDb New Filmmaker Award, only at the age of 15. And she proceeds to demonstrate her unique absurdist voice through many short films she's made ever since. So, on that note, let's welcome Ava to the chat. Hello.
Hello, that was so weird, but lovely to be spoken about like that. So thank you.
Yeah, just being nice compliments.
I like it.
So to kick things off, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself as a filmmaker and about this film that we're going to talk about, Dying to Meet You?
So hello, I'm Ava. You probably know by now. I am from Leeds in the north of England. I've been making films since I was about 14. That was my first one. And I don't know, my films, they've kind of grown. A lot of them were kind of period dramas, which is kind of like this, with a bit of a psychological twist. And now I'm kind of moving into absurdist comedy. But yeah, I don't know, I just love filmmaking, love creating and collaborating with people, and that's me. Yeah. And then the film, forgot about that one. Dying to Meet You. Yeah, that was a film. That was a very hard film to make. It was quite a big crew. It was the biggest film I've ever made in terms of like production scale. But it came about because my dad, he wrote a play called My Name is Bill, about the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we thought one day, oh, let's adapt it into a film. So we both kind of worked together on that. And yeah, no, I just wanted to make a film that shows what we call a dry drunk, which is somebody who is about to take a drink. Because a lot of the films nowadays, I don't know, about alcoholics, they show, I don't know, spinning rooms and all this, when they're actually drunk, but it's actually such a struggle for an alcoholic before they take a drink and see what's going on in their head to struggle and say no. So yeah, that's kind of what the film's about. Don't want to say too much too soon.
Yeah, I know that's very interesting because it does sort of take a different spin on like exploring the experience of an alcoholic. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, my next question was going to be like, what drew you to exploring the story of the origin of Alcoholics Anonymous and what the process of adapting this into a short film was?
Yeah. So yeah, as I said, it was a play, and the play was just like a monologue for like an hour. So that would be so boring if it was just a film. So I don't know, me and my dad, we discussed how we could externalize the internal, how we could kind of show what's going on inside this guy's head, but do it in a film way, in a creative way. And so we kind of came up with the idea of these, well, he came up with the idea of these three kind of segments of his personality. I don't want to spoil too much in case they've seen it or not seen it. But yeah, so it just meant that it could be a back and forth between different dreams and different personality types all within his head, because it's a massive struggle for alcoholics. They've got different parts of their past coming up and trying to say, oh, you should drink, and different parts of their personality saying, no, we need to get our head in the game here. So it's hard work, and I wanted to show that with people inside the head, and I think that was the best way to show it. But yeah, so the adapting process was completely scrapping the play really, and just kind of getting elements and creating an actual film, because they're very different mediums. But yeah, and then we kind of wanted, because David Lynch is a big inspiration for me, so I wanted to mix that kind of more, I don't know, surrealist element into it as well. So I don't know, hopefully that kind of came across. But yeah, that was it really. It
Yeah.
was a long process because they're very different mediums, but I don't know, it was fun, and now I'm better at adapting if I ever wanted to adapt in the future. So it's just learning. So yeah.
Yeah, usually you can kind of tell when a film's been adapted from a play, but I couldn't tell
Yeah.
with your film.
Oh, well, thank you. But it's because we like scrapped the play completely,
Yeah,
so that might be why.
no, it makes sense now. So yeah, one thing that struck me about Dying to Meet You was like the production design of the film, and especially when it kind of becomes a bit more surreal in like the second half of the film, and the sets kind of change a bit.
Mhm.
Um, how were you able to like achieve this production design, and what would your advice be for other people making short films to improve the quality of their production design?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky to be working with an incredible art director who I met a couple of months before we started filming, so it was very last minute. But I think, I don't know, with this film, it was very much using what we've got because it's based in 1930s America. And so trying to replicate that whole atmosphere in the UK, it's quite difficult. It's not impossible. But we looked around loads of kind of hotels just for like function rooms to try and kind of model it and see which ones are Art Deco and which ones are not. We finally found just a hotel function room that was out of use, and we just completely transformed it. And it's weird, most of the actual art direction in this film, production design, is the lamps. Like for some reason the lamps just made it, I don't know, they just made it. Because if you look at the furniture, there's a little bit of furniture, but it's mostly just kind of the lighting created the mood of it. So my art director, it's almost a question for her. She was amazing. She just went into old kind of prop houses and kind of pawn shops, vintage shops, the usual, just going around everywhere. And a lot of the costumes were from kind of opera houses. There's like a big opera house here in Leeds, and so they've got lots of secondhand costumes. They were having a big sale, so yeah, we were just going around everywhere and just utilizing what we have. Like even half of that production design was just from in the attic in my house, like old lamps and stuff at my grandma's. So it's just, yeah, just being resourceful. But yeah, and then in the courtroom we were lucky enough to get, I think it's Dewsbury Town Hall. They had like a courtroom that we could rent out, which is amazing. We didn't have to do any set dressing for that. It was already perfect. I think that's what's so good about living in Yorkshire, is because you've got all these historic kind of buildings that are kind of open to the public, and they're quite accessible. You just ask, you don't know if you don't ask. So we're lucky to live in such a historically rich place, so we could replicate America. So yeah, that was how we did it.
Yeah, because they kind of like, I thought you would have made a set or something, but I didn't realize they were just like
No, they're
building some around Yorkshire.
just around Yorkshire. There's a bunch of hidden gems. But no, if that was a set, oh my Lord, that'll be quite expensive. So
Yeah, yeah,
just
I
use
was
what we have.
wondering.
Yeah.
So when looking at like your body as a work as a whole, period films aren't like a unique feature of Dying to Meet You. So I'm just interested in hearing like what engages you about telling stories of the past, and if this is like something you'd want to continue doing in the future of your filmmaking.
Um, yeah, I always get this question. I never really know where it came from. I think again, going back to Yorkshire, I think where I live, it's kind of middle of nowhere in some fields and this old kind of villages. I think I kind of grew up around that environment, and a lot of nature. If you notice, not this film, weirdly enough, but a lot of my other films, they're based outside. One, because it's cheaper to film in, and two, because I've just grown up around fields and kind of the history of that. So I think that's one of the reasons. And true stories. I don't know. I feel like, well, even like my other film, Beth, it's like a historical drama about this girl who has schizophrenia, and I feel like the fact that it's a true story, I don't know, adds another element to it. It kind of makes it almost relatable, but I don't know. To me, it means more because I'm telling these stories of these forgotten faces that nobody would have ever known because they're just kind of disappearing into history. And I've always loved history as well, because I think there's so much in that. So it's a mixture of many things. And I also think um we didn't have like technology then and phones and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm waffling here, but I think in the future I'm kind of drifting away from period films more to modern topics, kind of mixed with absurdist comedy. But I don't know, I kind of want to mix that with the period films, with the true stories, because I think there's really something in that. But I honestly, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. So, but that's a good point. I might mix that in the future, just because I think there's so many stories out there already that just haven't seen the surface. And I know that could be one of my jobs, just to show them to the world. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you come across like all these little stories? Because like Beth that you just mentioned, I wouldn't have known about that story, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. I think I love to go to like museums, and I love history anyway. So for example, Beth's story, I went to it was an old mental asylum that's been kind of converted, and they had a book about all these forgotten faces that were marked buried in unmarked graves. And I just read her story, and I don't know. I think if you look around, like there's so many stories everywhere, and especially in your family as well. I'm starting to uncover memoirs and all of that jazz. And I don't know, it's weird how relatable everything is, even though it's been, I don't know, hundreds of years nowadays. So yeah, everywhere. I just look everywhere and they kind of pop up, and then I'm like, oh, I should probably tell a story. So yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Um, so as mentioned in the introduction, this season is about externalizing the internal, which you do very effectively in Dying to Meet You. You kind of like, as you said, given the opportunity to explore like what's going on in his mind. Um, so how were you able to like represent his psychological state of mind through using the medium of film?
Yeah. I think it's a mixture of everything. I mentioned those like the characters, because I really wanted like an internal battle within him, because I think that's a lot of alcoholics, they have that before they're about to take the drink. But it's also, I think, production design as well. I think that was a massive thing, especially if you notice the first half of the film, and it's in the hotel kind of function room, is so drastically different to um the second to last scene when they're fully going at him when he's about to take the drink. It's really just lighting, but it makes such a big difference. And I don't know, it's even these characters, from even Frank, who's we kind of see is in the dream sequence in the courtroom. He's yeah, he's a character from the past. So it's just, I don't know. I tried to replicate what is going on in an alcoholic's head, which is it's hard to put into words, but it's memories from the past about guilt and regret, and then a hope for the future, and blind hope for the future, because a lot of the times alcoholics, they have what's called arrested development, which means that they're kind of stuck in the notion, oh, I'm still 16, I can still do whatever I want, I still can have big dreams, and I don't actually have to try, and all this jazz. So and that's kind of the character of Shark, who's saying, oh, we can do a business, we don't matter about anyone else, it's just our dreams. So I don't know how it all came together, but that, I don't know if that helps at all. I don't know if that makes sense, it just kind of
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to like interview anyone before making this film, or did you purely just kind of use the play to like get the whole experience correct, I guess?
Yeah, well, I hope my family don't mind me saying, but both my parents are members of AA,
Mm.
and most of my family are members of AA. And so yeah, so that was kind of my research. And then also I went to loads of AA meetings, and it's really, and talk about stories. There's stories there. There's loads of stories there. And also, yeah, lots of research into kind of the psychology of what's going on in an alcoholic's head. So yeah, it was just research from everywhere, but I'm very I don't know, I was grateful that my family is so open and they're willing to help me share this story, because I think it's really important, because I think it's the 6% of the population have alcoholism as a disease. So I think it's not talked about enough in a way that's kind of respectful. It's more kind of brown paper bag on a bench, kind of that's an alcoholic. But there's, they're people as well. There's a lot going in their head. They've been through a lot. They're struggling. And so I just wanted to show it so that people could understand. So I don't know if it helped them understand. Hopefully it did. But yeah, that was the research of it.
Yeah, yeah, we could like when I was seeing the comments on like the YouTube, you can see it's really like reached a lot of people. So yeah.
Um, that was so nice. It was nice to see like how, I don't know, even it connected people with people who are members of AA, but also who, because there's another program which is for family members who have been affected. Other family members have a alcoholism, so it was nice to see that people, even if family members, can try and understand their loved ones now and what is going on in their head. That was nice to see. I got some comments of that as well. So I'm glad that it's helping some people to understand, which is always nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about like the psychological nature of your work, you can see that in like a lot of your films, like Beth again, as you mentioned. Um, are there any like particular filmmakers? You did mention David Lynch that is like make channel this interest in like psychological surreal stories, or is it like more just a self-driven interest that you seem to be drawn towards?
Yeah. I think David Lynch has always been, since I was very, very young, like a massive inspiration for me, just because I know it's the surrealism, but it's also the idealism, especially because this is set in America, and a lot of his films are, oh, this is the idyllic American dream. That's a lot in Dying to Meet You. There's a lot of mention about kind of his dreams and how he should be a businessman, and that's how you're happy and money is happy. And David Lynch also, he kind of twists that to show what's going on underneath, with kind of psychologically. So that's kind of as well what inspired this film. But I don't really. I'm trying to. All my filmmakers are going out my head now. I think Darren Aronofsky, maybe. Kind of just a bit of everyone. I don't know if, apart from David Lynch, I don't know if it's just one. I think in general, or even like 8.5 with Fellini, that kind of weird. It's not just psychological. It's like a mixture of physical I don't know, nightmares in physical forms, like personified nightmares, like the three people in Bill's head, kind of, I don't know, just from everywhere. But yeah, it's weird, like psychological, like horrors and all. I don't actually enjoy watching them, so I don't know why I'm making them. So I don't know, I think it was just the best kind of genre to um uh funnel this film into. I don't think it would be a very good comedy, so I just kind of chose this. And yeah, I don't know, I think that's how it went. I don't know.
Do you find like any other art forms other than film, like something you bounce off as well, like painting or music or anything like that?
Yeah. That's interesting you said that. I love kind of all art really. So painting, that is weird. A lot of my paintings are very weird, very psychological, like floating eyeballs and really weird stuff. So it's all making sense now. So yeah, paintings and also like art installations as well. I love to go to, especially it's a bit, basic, but the Tate in London, I always love to go down there and see some installations there. But yeah, and then music as well. I've got such a weird taste in music, and a lot of the soundtrack for Dying to Meet You was just on my Spotify, like different, just trying to get it into my head, especially the last song, weirdly enough, is I think it's from the 1930s. So yeah, I have a weird niche for old like 1930s music. Yeah, I'm kind of weird. I've just got a weird mixture of everything. But yeah, I think all art forms and plays as well. I think there was one play, it's called The Pillow Man as well, that I saw about a year and a half ago. That was incredible. So yeah, just exposing myself to everything, and museums as well, because that's how I find my stories. So yeah, just everything, every art form.
Mm. Yeah, you do sort of see that like you shouldn't just focus only on film when
Mm.
like getting ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so you like have taken on the role of both director and writer, but I take it you didn't write down to me, or did you
I didn't.
actually adapt it?
It was mostly my dad, but I helped with kind of some adaptations, but I'm giving him
Um,
credit there.
yeah. So like how did that differ to writing your own screenplays and like directing an adapted screenplay, I guess, as well?
Um, it was very difficult. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know, when I'm writing, I always have an idea. Like even when I'm literally writing the script, I have ideas and images of how it's gonna look and what's gonna look like. So I could never hand a script over at the moment, hand it over to someone else to direct. So I don't know how my dad did that. But yeah, just getting a somebody else's screenplay, it was difficult just because I didn't really know what was going on in his head. I didn't know I don't know, I didn't have as much control over the basic fundamentals of it, about the characters or this or that. I just I don't know. It's good that I he's my dad, so I could give him loads of notes and stuff, but I'm not really sure how in the industry how um they're two separate roles. I think they're very intertwined. Also, I'm a bit of a control freak, so I like to I like to know, I like to direct, especially my work. But I think it was very useful as well because I had a very different perspective to my dad as well. Because I think sometimes when you go in writing a script, you're very much your head's in there, and then you go to direct it. And it is a great film, and it's exactly what you thought it would be. But sometimes somebody else's perspective and ideas change it in a better way. So I think it was nice to have a bit of collaboration there and my youthful perspective with his more, I don't know, it's quite wise perspective as well, mixed together. But on I couldn't have made this film without him because I don't have that experience. I'm not a member of AA. I don't have the research. I don't really know what's going on in alcoholics' heads. So I think he came with the knowledge and the insight and the wisdom about it, and I came in with the kind of weird psychological flair, and it kind of mixed together.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it worked out in the end. It was a struggle, but we got there, so it was okay. Yeah.
And I also want to know, like, when you do write your own screenplays, like, how do you know when you've kind of got it to its best form? And, like, are there any top tips on writing screenplays that you have?
Oh wow. How do I know I got into best form? I never know. I always think one day, oh, this is great, and then I sleep, and then the next day, oh, just awful. But I think tips for writing screenplays, I've kind of gone a bit crazy just because I read so many screenplay books. I really love to study the form. Because I think just I don't know, I just love learning. So I think reading like Robert McKee and Sid Field books, highly recommend. Yeah, I just learned the form and that's how I learnt it. But I think I don't know, tips is I think learn, even if it's just reading a couple of website about the structure of screenplays, read them because that's very important to get the structure right and to get the basics right, and then you can kind of bend the rules. But how do I know? I don't know. I think I'm very lucky to have such a great network of family and friends that whenever I'm confident enough to send them a screenplay, they can be honest with me. It's important to get, if you're wanting to go into screenwriting, to get maybe like two or three people that you really trust who will be blatantly honest with you. If it's bad, they will tell you. So I'm lucky enough to have a great family that does that. And they not only say, oh, this is bad, this is good, they kind of add some different hints. That's what I'm talking about, different perspectives. They add different ideas as well. But yeah, so tips, just, I don't know, start reading screenplay, kind of, it's boring and dry and awful, but reading the form, and then yeah, and just write. I think a lot of the time, especially me and a lot of writers, we procrastinate all the time because writing, it's such hard work, but you just gotta keep your fingers on the keyboard and just keep going because something is better than nothing. So that's my advice. Yeah.
Very good advice. Yeah, I've found doing screenplays, you just end up going back and forth loads. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it's difficult. So as a teenage filmmaker, like, how have you been able to balance, like, schoolwork with filmmaking? Because I feel like that can often get in the way of people doing filmmaking at a young age.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, when I first started, because I've been doing it for about 4 years, I think that was before GCSEs. Yeah, so there wasn't much schooling going on, to be honest. Like I was happy, with my camera, all that jazz. But yeah, GCSEs, it kind of vamped up a lot, and the filmmaking on the side was difficult. I did most of my films just in the holidays, so I think Easter and summer were classic for me, just because they're big long breaks where I can slam in pre-production and production in there. But it was difficult. But then I was lucky enough for 2 years in like sixth form. I went to like a performing arts school, and they have a little film kind of section. So I was making films for schoolwork as well. So it all kind of fit together. But no, I think it did take over my life a lot. It was a lot of weekends and evenings of editing and stuff like that to meet deadlines. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought, I don't know, I've got such a passion for it, I didn't really care. But now I finally finished school, so I have time to live and make films, which is great. So yeah, now I've just got loads of time. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the plan is. So I'll keep you updated.
So you kind of began like, as you just said, in lockdown when you started getting like more into it properly and professionally, I suppose. And that was with players, wasn't it?
That's it, yeah.
So now you're like 4 years later, are there any like bits of advice you would have given yourself at the start of your filmmaking journey? If not, any just general advice that you think young filmmakers would benefit from?
Yeah, wow. Oh, there's a lot. I think first off, advice I'd give to kind of myself is, it's a bit weird, but include other people, because I think classic control freak, you're there with your camera or with your iPad on iMovie, and you just kind of want to do it by yourself. You don't want to get actors, because actors are people and they're not. You just want to be the actor and be the director and be the editor because it's easier and quicker. But I think, and I struggled with that, to kind of bring filmmaking to my friends and get my friends to help me, because I was not embarrassed, but I didn't want to bother them. But I don't know. Advice is, yeah, involve your friends, involve your family, and get different crew members from around your area. I bet there's somebody else that wants to, I don't know, help you and hold the boom or whatever. Because again, it's a different perspective. It's more collaborative. The films will be better. Trust me. If you're the actor, the cameraman, the director, and everything, the film won't be that good. But if you get other people to help you and have the confidence to put yourself out there and network and go to different film festivals, then you'll find a little community and you'll make loads of friends. So it's nice. But then any other advice? I think, especially to me and a lot of people out there, I think I don't know, filmmaking is amazing, but don't let it kind of take over. Your health is and well-being is far more important than any film. And like, films, it's not curing cancer, it's just a film. So there's no point getting extremely stressed out. There's no point. It's not the end of the world if you I don't know, you don't get that shot, or if you don't do this. Of course it's important to you, but I don't know, be kind to yourself, because film, it is hard work. It's stressful and it's long hours, and be kind to yourself. And yeah, your health is more important than any film. So always put yourself first. And burning out, I've started to really face as a big issue. So yeah, take your time, take it slow. You don't have to be, making a feature film when you're 19. It's not that important, even if, you can, it's, go for it. But yeah, just take it easy and be kind to yourself. So that's kind of it.
Yeah, sounds like wise advice.
Okay.
So it seems that we've come into the end of the interview, so I have one last question. What are your filmmaking plans for the future? And are there any like projects you can tease us with, or yeah?
Oh, well, I'm hoping to make a short film next year called The Witches of Pool Bottom. Very weird. It's in an empty swimming pool, and it's about body image. It's very absurd, so be looking out for that. And then I started a couple of months ago writing my debut feature. It is taken forever. So I think next year I'm just kind of slogging away at that. I really want to take my time with it. I don't want to rush it out there. So yeah, but it's a culmination of my experience of leaving school and going into the big wide world and letting go of childhood. That's kind of what kind of themes are of the feature. So yeah, watch that space. Might be for a couple of years, but still watch it. But yeah, so that's kind of the plans. But right now I'm still, yeah, I've left school, so I'm not going to university for film. Not yet, I don't think. So I'm just kind of, I'm open, I'm exploring, seeing how I can actually make money because money is important. So yeah, that's my plan so far.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. I'm being quite intrigued to see your first feature, that's for sure.
That'll be a couple of years, but yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me today. I've really enjoyed it and hearing more about Dying to Meet You as well. So for people watching, if you haven't seen Dying to Meet You already, you can find it on Ava Bounds' YouTube channel. And there are many other short films on there as well that are definitely worth checking out as well. So you can join us again next week for Tom's interview with Ida Mellon discussing her film Night of the Living Dread. Thank you for watching.